again, Cora, and you might bear your indulgence for one moment. I'm taking this question on behalf of Deputy Danny Healy-Rae, and I'd like to send my sincere sympathies to Deputy Danny Healy-Rae and Michael Healy-Rae on the death of their uncle, Denny Healy-Rae, in New Jersey, a hard-working gentleman who left our shores 60 years ago, who was 90 years of age, who passed away yesterday. Minister, the question we'd like is, I'll make it short, is what is the alternative accommodation that you have in mind for Ukrainian refugees in Killarney and Kerry, given that the tourist season is beckoning?
Thanks very much, Deputy, and I'd also like to offer my sympathies to both deputies in terms of the death of their uncle. My department is accommodating over 55,000 people from Ukraine, and we've contracted 42,000 beds in over 700 settings, including in serviced accommodation and other repurposed settings. In County Kerry, communities have welcomed over 6,000 Ukrainians and almost 1,700 in the Killarney town area. And I know that those from Ukraine sincerely appreciate the community support that they have received across Kerry and indeed across the rest of the country. Those fleeing Ukraine continue to arrive in Ireland. Last week there was an average of 124 arrivals daily, and it does remain challenging to provide shelter to all those in need, and this is very much the focus across government. My department is in negotiations as contracts expire with all existing providers to ascertain whether they will continue to provide accommodation for Ukrainians. No provider has definitively indicated ceasing services under the new contracts the department are offering. We will keep this under review and continue to procure service and self-catering accommodation where we can. Though negotiations are ongoing, it is accepted that some providers will choose to revert to the tourism offering shortly, and we are preparing for this. My department is working urgently across government with all partners to bring suitable alternative accommodation on board in all areas, including in County Kerry. The state is committed to delivering solutions beyond tourist accommodation, and this includes progressing offers of refurbished buildings, the Unoccupied Homes campaign, pledged accommodation and rapid build homes on suitable sites. My officials regularly meet with departments and with Fáilte Ireland to discuss issues arising for those in the tourism market and how these can be responded to, and the sector's continued support on this is really appreciated. Ukrainian displaced persons can make their own private arrangements and can avail of state supports to do so, including potentially availing of pledged or vacant accommodation. 6,482 people have been accommodated in 2,700 pledged properties around the country.
Thank you very much, Minister. But the issue is very worrying, I suppose, both in Kerry side, I have no doubt, because I've heard it quite a lot in Kerry radio and from deputies, Danny Healy-Rae and all the deputies also. But it's worrying too on the Cork side, where I come from myself, where there's hotels where I suppose the tourism season is starting. We're trying to promote tourism and continue to promote tourism. It's quite possible that these hotels will want to cease the contracts that they're involved in. I don't see from the answer you've given that there's steps in place to make sure that these people, the Ukrainians in particular that are in these hotels, have alternative accommodation immediately. They can't be left out onto the streets. And if this accommodation ends, which is quite likely it will, we have a two-tier situation here, because if it doesn't, it's going to be detrimental to the tourism sector as well going forward. So maybe you could might outline a little bit more clear as to what's going to happen there if this happens.
Thanks, Deputy. And undoubtedly, as I said in response to the last question, there are challenges here. This is a war-generated crisis, and it places a challenge on Ireland and it places a challenge on other countries. As I said, there are a number of clear programmes to provide additional accommodation: modular, refurbishment, new vacant home scheme. But I am very aware to the risk that, particularly in the early part of spring, they may not, and again it depends on how many hotels decide to revert to tourism, but those three strands may not accommodate everyone if a significant number of hotels decide to move back. And in that case, we'll have to work with local authorities. We'll look towards the standing up of rest centres, which have been hugely beneficial in terms of our response. We'll also engage with the third level sector in terms of university accommodation. That was extremely beneficial last year. So we will look at all options to make sure we can continue to accommodate all those who we are providing accommodation with at the moment.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your reply. And again, you're talking about a huge amount of people, that have taken up stays in hotels, because of the crisis that we're in. And these are, to me, legitimate people. There is people coming into this country that are undocumented, that are, as far as I'm concerned, should never be in this country. No one should be in this country unless they're fully documented. And that's the way, if I was leaving this country, that's the way it should be for me if I go to another person's country. And in most cases it is. In this situation, unfortunately, there's tens of thousands of people undocumented here. I think you're starting to squeeze up on it now, but the horse is bolted, unfortunately. I still don't see... if the contracts with the hotels end, it probably won't end with them all, but I still don't see from your answers, I can't clearly see in my mind what exactly is going to be in place for these people if the hotels pull the contracts. And obviously, as I said earlier on, the tourism season is looming. Modular homes are not there, so we're talking a vacuum about homes that are not here at present, and it's quite possible these contracts could end in the next few weeks.
Thanks, Deputy. I think just in terms of your earlier comments, it is important to say that someone arriving in Ireland has a right to claim international protection. And often people have to flee country on fake documents because they're being chased, they're being repressed by a particular regime. If you're looking to flee your country, if you're an Iranian feminist dissident or something like that, it's unlikely that the Iranian regime are going to give you an exit paper, in which case you may have to flee the country on forged documents. That's an unfortunate consequence of the world we live in at the moment. People have a right to apply, and there's a process, and we all recognise the process for assessing someone's international protection application has to speed up, and at the end of that process there's a termination, and some people may be granted international protection and some won't, and in that event those people will be deported. But that's the process that works. It is just worth saying, and I would have said this to Deputy Healy-Rae, I had a really good meeting with the Kerry Community Response Forum with Minister Foley and others, and I heard firsthand the amazing work that's happening in Kerry in terms of welcoming both Ukrainians and international protection applicants, and it was really positive to see that real groundswell all over the county in terms of the support that has been given by community, voluntary and statutory groups.